C, B, and C, and S along the Cape Breton Central Nova Scotia Railroad at Tracadie, Antigonish County. It's a very holy railroad. It's on this railroad, the late saintly Father U.E.D. MacDonald, as a young man, a college student, used to work with the famous Leonard Ferjean de Coast of Frankville, Antigonish County. And Leonard worked in the cooking area. So anyway, Frankville, Antigonish County. And Leonard was great friends with Father U.E.D., and they got to be such good friends because Father U.E.D. worked on the section gang, the extra gang in the summer. There weren't as many machines back then. It was manual labor. The fellas all worked hard. Everybody works in the railroad works hard. So then they take the next one was, as I say, Leonard Ferjean de Coast. Leonard Ferjean, he took and was in a cooking car to get an extra scoop of potatoes or extra piece of meatloaf. You're nice with this guy, and Leonard was nice to everybody anyway. Great guy. So they're great friends. And Pope Francis took and he takes his Pope Francis, formerly Cardinal Bergoglio of Buenos Aires, Argentina. He took and Father worked on the railroad. He was from Italy. He immigrated to South America, and he was a railroad man. I told that to the wonderful Nicky Breen Esquire one day in church. I said, what do you and the Pope's father have in common? I don't know what, I said. You're both railroad men. So Cardinal Bergoglio, now Pope Francis, took and worked on the railroad. And I don't know just what's going on right now, but I'll give you some more railroad stories. On this railroad here, as I mentioned on a short video last Sunday night on the Fast Freight East going down on Sunday evening, that Alexander Graham Bell, this is the old intercolonial railroad line here, the old intercolonial railroad line, and he took and come down from Washington, D.C. through Truro, Nova Scotia, New Glasgow, Tracadie Monastery, back of Tracadie, back of Linwood, Frankville, back of Auld Cove to Port Mulgrave, and across the Strait of Canada to go on the Scotia Ferry. Locomotives would stay on either side, but they'd roll the box cars and hoppers and other stuff, lumber cars on and off once they got to Point Tupper, and down through Orangedale, and got off at Orangedale and stayed in Waikagama the first summer down. Next year he stayed in the train and he got off at Grand Narrows. At Grand Narrows he got off. Grand Narrows in Victoria County. In fact, there's a bed and breakfast. The former Grand Narrows Hotel is now called a bed and breakfast, and there's a room in that bed and breakfast, and the room is called the Alexander Graham Bell Room. Okay, because Alexander Graham slept in that room, him and Mrs. Bell, Mabel was her name, and next day the fishermen brought them over in a boat over the beautiful Badek, and they stayed at the Telegraph House on the main street, Shabukta Street in Badek, and they eventually bought land just across the inlet, the Badek Inlet, and it's called Ben Bria. Actually, I've been in that house, Ben Bria. It's quite the home. And as well, right in this beautiful blessed railroad here, we had the following. We had the famous, the wonderful saintly family, the Schwartz family. It'd be Abraham and his wonderful wife Rose. They came here from Minsk, Belarus, which is later under the Soviet Union was the Russian Republic. But in about the 19th century, again, they traveled the same path through Truro, New Glasgow, Tracadie, Antigonish County, Monastery, Linwood Junction, back through Frankville, back of Auld Cove, Port Mulgrave, Point Tupper, up, and they got off. Their final termination was the lovely coastal coal mining community of New Waterford. Beautiful home in New Waterford. They had a general merchant store on Plummer Avenue and later branched out into furniture. And in fact, Schwartz Furniture, not this fall, but next fall, 2022, will be celebrating the 100th anniversary. So Rose Schwartz and her equally wonderful husband Abraham came over through this railroad here. It was the old Intercolonial originally, old Intercolonial Railroad, and then it was CNR, and CNR was going to abandon the line east of Truro. East of Truro, they're going to abandon that line, but what happened is they didn't have to abandon the line because a wonderful company called Railtech, Bruce Floor and his investors, it was a private company then. Bruce Floor came up from San Antonio, Texas, and took the line over as a short line operation. And so we were able to have a continuation of rail service. How you doing? What happened? Pardon me? Oh, okay. There's a wonderful, hard-working rail. It's a big train tonight. Beautiful big train. And this is a wonderful gentleman here. He's a hard-working railroad man. They have a nice long train, and I think they had a separation here, the separation of the train. So anyway, that happens. That's railroad result. See where the things come together like this here. See like that? This is the where you lock the things together. The trains are locked together. So big heavy train. We have lots of coal and lots of paper. Each one of these cars is about 200,000 pounds. See, I know what coal cars are, and the paper probably not quite as heavy, but 200,000 pounds is 100 tons of weight on each car. So the number I was at, I was up to 26. It was about 19 coal cars and box cars. Is nice heavy train. So it's a very interesting. Anyway, I want to go on with my video now, dear friends. And I was weeding in the garden, so I was a little short breath, but I run to the house and grab my phone pretty quick. So what happens is they take and the 100th anniversary shorts I mentioned, and his 100th anniversary is coming up next fall in 2022. And then I give you a history of how the railroad come here. Okay, old ICR, Intercolonial Railroad, then CNR, and then Bruce Floor Rail Tech from San Antonio, Texas, and later on Public, and they get bought out by a company called Rail America out of Boca Raton, Florida. And they in turn got bought out some years later by GV Wyoming, GV Wyoming Railroad out of Denver, Colorado. And they're all great people. In turn, they've since been bought out by a big firm called Brookfield Asset Management. Brookfield Asset Management, there's about, I'd say there's 80, close to 100 short line railroads. And for you non-railroaders in the audience, a short line is a railroad that goes from point A to point B that interconnects with the big Class A railroads. For example, this coal now will be going up to our power plant in Trenton. Coal cars up around the bend there. And box cars will be handed off to CN up at Truro at the end of this line. And they will go on further. So this might take a little while, folks. And they say the railroad built this country and the truck drivers keep it going. But let me tell you, man, oh man, we're still gonna take and need, if we didn't have the railroad here, we wouldn't have a paper mill. And we didn't have a paper mill, we wouldn't have the railroad either. Because as you see from this car here, he's making choo-choo. It must be indicating it's going to start to pull ahead now. He's giving a choo-choo. I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to go on a little bit longer than usual. This is a surprise. Life's like that. Life is full of surprises. Never be thrown off your game when something happens in life. That's all in a day's work in the railroad business, you know. My father worked as a young man for a certain period of time in the railroad. There's pretty well everybody in a small community of Tracadie and Harbor Bushy, Frankville. It was one of the few jobs you could get paid for. Otherwise, you were cutting pulp and got some pulpwood, some firewood for your home, or you were growing a garden and you shared stuff back and forth. Very resourceful people. Railroads are very resourceful. Any place where you see a railroad, you'll see hard-working, resourceful people. This particular railroad goes through Briley Brook and Plunkett River, Heatherton, Southside Harbor, then Plunkett and Heatherton, and Afton, and in the Tracadie and Monastery, and so Linwood, Harbor Bushy, through Auld Cove, right across the Council Causeway now. The railroad, this particular line, used to go to Port Mulgrave, I mentioned. Now it crossed since 1955 when the Council Causeway come. And a fixed line. They made the railroad go through, turn off at what we call Linwood Junction into Cape Jack and Harbour Bushy. So this is a very it's an early evening train. As evenings, days get shorter, evenings get longer. So I can hear this? They're picking up steam again now. They're picking up their real. You hear? Listen to this, folks. Okay, coming part at the end then. Okay, that's why Buddy went down there. I'd have to come across up ahead. Okay, now watch this, folks. The train is backing up. Now you don't see this too much. The train go backwards. Okay, that's like a waterfall go backwards. Well, this is very interesting. Okay, going backwards now. Okay, watch this, folks. The train is backing up. I've never had this in my life. Okay, I've seen trains back up before, but it must have been some of the box cars separated, and Buddy was there to get them put back together. Okay, that's why Buddy went down. Buddy's title is brakeman, and he's a very important man on that train. If you didn't have brakemen, well, the train operated. See the coal cars back here now? Coming back towards us. Let me just look down the track here. Here. Hold on. See what I can see here, folks. Yeah, well, fortunately, it's all the highway's clear. The highway's clear. So it happens somewhere's down there. Somewhere's down there. Okay. It's between the crossing down by Frank Fragier's house, coming up my way. And see, they must have got the car, the pieces, the two sections of the train put together, because he's going to back up a bit more now. See, this is that little red light at the end of the train, by the way. When it's a red light at the end of the train, that means that red light at the end of the train, that is in place of caboose. But if the cars separate, Buddy, the conductor, and the locomotive engineer know that there's something amiss, and the train stops. Okay, so this is really quite something here. You don't see that every day. We're almost at the 30-minute mark, but that's fine. This is something you don't see every day. I loved the railroad. When I was a kid, I first learned to count on the railroad. Okay, I'd see the train go by, and I'd be swinging on my swing, and we used to have passenger trains on this line one time. Passenger trains. Okay, we don't have passenger trains now anymore. We haven't had them for quite some time. It was called Via Rail, passenger trains. So we don't have passenger trains anymore. That is something we don't have anymore. Now you take and you just hold on a second here. Alright, he's getting a line put together, the train put together. Now see, he's starting to haul ahead a bit, but I'm certain he's not going to go all the way up to Glasgow with Buddy standing back of the train. He's heading up now. He's heading up now. See it go? Oh boy, he's coming up. Boy, look at that. Okay, let's count them. Let's count the boxcars, folks. Okay. 1. These are all paper, super calendar. Very important for our economy. 2. 3. That's a newer car, not really on it yet. 2. 3, 4. This is 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. Here comes the yellow color car. 10. 11. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. There's Wilbur! Yeah! 17, 18, 19. I hope Buddy's ended the train. Buddy's not there. God, where is he? 19. Woo! Well, see it go around the bend, folks. They must gonna send a car for it. 19. Heading right around the bend. Well, this is John Pettipas. Share this video. It's a special video. Share it far and wide, my dear friends. And please press the subscribe button. This is our 2nd anniversary week, and it's over now. All the best. God bless this last weekend of August on late Friday afternoon, which is the 27th of August. Thank you very much. All the best. God bless. Good night.